Hello and welcome to the home of the Ghost Owl, and Warhammer community have put up another article as of yesterday talking about the Arcane Journal, which I think is an absolutely amazing idea, allowing people to decide if they really need to buy this or not. So let's take a look at what the article says. So we can see we've got the two Arcane Journals there. So Arcane Journals are softback supplements designed to work alongside army lists in Force of Fantasy and Ravening Hordes. Containing supplementary background imagery, additional rules that complement these details through extra equipment, special characters, and army lists, which is kind of what we got before. So, Arcane Journals are not required to play your chosen faction in Warhammer the Old World. The two main army lists, i.e. the Forces of Fantasy and Ravening Hordes, contain a complete set of rules for each army, including unique spells that supplement the 8 laws in the core rulebook. For instance, the Law of Nehekara and the Law of the Lady, unique abilities like Knightly Vows and Resurrecting the Fallen, and faction-specific special rules such as Arrows of Asaph, Blessings of the Lady, etc. So here we've got obviously a picture from the Arcane Journal, which is really going into more of the fluff. So it's talking about uniforms. We can see colours of chivalry there. It's probably going to have some of the colours of the different, duchies, baronetcies, all that sort of stuff that are in and around Bretonia. So that's very much the fluff. However, it does say Arcane Journals do provide different ways to play and new ways to build your force via themed army lists with their own mustering rules, which we knew, and that's flavour stuff. These armies of infamy differ from the main list in meaningful ways due to their geographical location, unique tactics employed by certain generals, or the formation of historical retinues. Now, these armies of infamy, because they are different in terms of mustering, they're different in what they allow you to take. They could be much more powerful than the basic army list, right? That we just don't know, but they could be. And, we have seen, I've been, say, playing Games Workshop games for 30 years, and we have seen in the past campaign books, for example, that have released a special army list, let's say 40k for example, and the army list in that campaign book has been significantly better than the main one, and therefore that then became a meta for tournaments and stuff. So I still say that if you're a tournament player and it's specific, it's actually a very niche and small audience compared to the majority that play beer and pretzel, play at home, casual games and so on. So we are talking about a very small amount of people. If you are playing at tournaments, you're definitely going to need this book because you need access to all the rules. So that's fine. That's what we knew before. That's absolutely fine. I myself will be getting the Arcane Journal. But just something to bear in mind, these armies of infamy could be a lot better. They could be a lot worse. But they're definitely going to add flavour and fun and diversity. So, there's that to it as well. For example, the Bretonnian Exiles are forces under the command of a banished lord, a knight who has committed some transgression against the code chivalric and been booted out. Okay, so they're now bloodthirsty mercenaries, employ border prince bombards as they attempt to claim glory, take up a new land to rule. Okay, they get the vow of exile. So here's an example, the vow of exile. Though my time within the lands of the lady has come to pass, my time serving her has not. By my hand and her mercy, my honour shall be restored, even if it is to be my final quest in its life. Okay, the exile vow is a chivalrous vow, as described on page 108 of the Forces of Fantasy. A model with this chivalrous vow has the stubborn and veteran special rules. In addition, a model with this chivalrous vow does not have to make a panic test when a friendly unit with either the levies or peasantry special rule is destroyed whilst within 6 inches of it, or when it is fled through by a friendly unit with either the levies or peasantry. Okay, so you kind of got the knight vow element of it, but you kind of get the stubborn and veteran piece with the exile's vow. Okay. Tomb Kings can use rules found in their own Arcane Journal to field Nehekar and royal hosts. The elite retinue of an influential tomb king or prince, the monarchs who lead these armies, are often tutored in the secret language of the priests of the mortuary cult, while their legions of skeleton and tomb guard chariots pulverize their rulers' enemies under hoof and wheel. Okay, these variant lists are a great way to add a narrative element to your collection, stretch your skills by undertaking projects such as creating Errantry Crusade with a rainbow of unique heraldry. And that's absolutely true. Like I say, it's going to give some nice diversity into the armies, because you're not forced down just taking a general list and always having, I'd expect core in particular to change with these different lists, as opposed to having to have a unit of Knights of the Realm, having to have a unit of Men at Arms. You might see something else as either being mandatory, or you might see something that's in special, for example, suddenly becoming a core, which is nice, but can be powerful. Okay, grind them down. This is obviously the one for the Tomb Kings, which is whilst within the general's command range, friendlies models whose troop type is chariot may re-roll the dice when rolling to determine the number of impact hits they cause. That's actually sounds pretty cool if you were going for like kind of a big chariot force. Not something I almost never ran that type of force in the 8th edition where I had lots of chariots, but that could really be again quite interesting, and I think one of the advantage here, it's going to make some of these units, more viable than maybe they have been in the past, which is a good thing. So each Arcane Journal also features one historical recreation scenario. For Kingdom of Bretonnia, that's the Battle of Maturia, set during a seismic war in the Border Princes. So this is pretty cool. So this is basically, it's a historical scenario. It reminds me a bit of some of the narrative scenarios that were done for things like Circle of Blood, Battle of Blackfire Pass, all that sort of stuff, where it was, very much a narrative scenario, but they provided, maps and certain special rules and so on that went with it. So that's pretty cool. You get mustering rules for each force. You get unique challenges. And each Arcane Journal will feature one of these historical recreations. So, if you don't have to buy all the Arcane Journals, just go and speak to your mate who will probably have one because he's got a different army, and you can get the rules from them. So we'll have a look at that because we can actually download the one that's in the Bretonian Arcane Journal below. So we'll have a look at that in a sec. Finishing the article. Each Arcane Journal contains rules for notable special characters such as the Green Knight, Elise Ducard, Necath, the Emissary, etc. himself. So if you want to play these special characters, you do need the Arcane Journal. There are also magic weapons, armor, standards, and other enchanted items for the featured faction. And of course, we don't know what other named characters are going to be in there. Like for Bretonia, I'm not expecting any other named characters we know because none of them should be alive from the ones we know. I think the interesting for me is the Tomb Kings, like who else from the Tomb Kings is going to be in the book. Are we going to see Apophas, for example? Are we going to see Katep, for example? So, there's other ones, special characters out there for Tomb Kings, which we know are alive. Okay, you'll be able to pre-order the Arcane Journals on release day, and further Arcane Journals following the other 7 core factions will be released in due course. So they'll be released when the faction gets a specific release. So this will kind of be like their army book at their release would be my guess. It's obviously, we're already going to have their army list in Ravening Hordes and Forces of Fantasy, but this is going to be the book that comes alongside the release of the dwarves and the dwarf units and so on. Okay, that's fine. I say, I come back. If you're a tournament player, you need it. If you're not, you don't. But if you do want to play either some of the diverse lists or some of the special characters, which is not mandatory but can be fun, it's worth picking up. So I think I'm definitely going to be picking up both of the Arcane Journals. Okay, let's take a look at this scenario. So here's the historical recreation scenario. Let's enlarge it a little bit. Right. With the darkness of the night filling the skies, the black ships of Cetra's fleet began to disgorge their undead cargo onto the beaches of Maturia. As the royal host approached, Sir Cecil Gaston, the Wormslayer, looked to the west. From beyond the horizon, the Knights of Brionne approached. Though whether they would arrive to find the defenders embattled or that Cetra's forces had swept through Maturia on towards distant Bretonnia, he could not say. Right. So the battle itself, a battle of May was fought between the army of Bretonian exiles led by Sir Cecil Gaston, the Wormslayer, and the undying legions of the Tomb Kings of Kemery, commanded by Cetra the Imperishable. To represent this, the players should write 3 muster lists, 1 for the attacker, 2 for the defender. Okay. So the attacker, so the attacker has a single 3,000 point muster list. So this is going to be potentially an all day or at least an all afternoon and evening battle using the Tomb Kings of Kemery Grand Army composition. Okay, the defender should write 2 muster lists, one representing their main force, the other representing the rescue force. So the defender, he gets 1,750 points using Bretonian Exiles Army of Infamy, which is fine because, of course, this is in the Arcane Journal, which is where that is. And then the rescue force, the defender should write a 1,250 point muster list using the Errantry Crusade army list. Okay, cool. So you're using 2 different army lists as well. That sounds fun. The general of the rescue force must be a Bretonian duke on a royal Pegasus, representing the Duke of Brionne. The rescue force must include Lady Elise Ducard. Okay, so, I mean, do you have to buy these models? Absolutely not. This is a narrative battle. If you don't have them, you can always use counts as, right? So it may seem initially that, holy crap, just to play this recreation scenario, I need it. Yes, it would look cool to have the exact models, but if you want to play it and have some fun, you know, it's fun, it's narrative, use counts as. Alternatively, this scenario may be played with any 2 armies of the player's choosing, in which case the defender must spend between 25% and 33% of their army's points on an allied contingent to act as the rescue force. Okay, cool. So you're not limited to Bretonia and Tomb Kings here, which is nice. Excellent, right. Okay, so here's the map. So you've got your deployment zone, 9 inches from the edge, 9 inches from the central line, which is probably going to be, this is in reality from the historical perspective, this is the attacker's zone. So you've got a defensible position here. Looks like it's some sort of hill. And then you've got the deployment zone, which is 12 inches from the centre, so quite a way back. Okay. Right, setup. Place of terrain as described in the Warhammer the Old World rulebook. In addition, place a defensible position as shown on the map opposite. Okay. Defensible position. Position is a hill measuring up to 16 inches at its widest point, featuring a single rock-strewn slope that may be no more than 8 inches wide, counts as dangerous terrain. Atop the hill is a flat area measuring no more than 8 inches along its longest side. Okay, so in terms of hills, many things you can use. Obviously, there are many hills that you can buy online from third parties and so on. If you want to make your own, getting some, polystyrene, cutting out the hill, covering it in PVA glue and flock is a really quick way of doing it. Make sure you do spray it green underneath. That generally helps if you're going for green flock. Helps cover any gaps. But if you're looking just to do this for the first time and you don't have a hill, use a book. Use a series of books and make it almost like a step pyramid style hill, which means you can actually have people going up and down it without falling off. So lots of options there. So it might seem, okay, I need a hill. You can actually make a hill pretty easy. Like I say, get a book, and if you're worried about potentially how it looks on your nice table, get some green cloth or something and just lay it over the top of the book. So yeah, lots of options for that, nice and easy to do. Okay. One edge of this flat area must be bordered by staked defences as described opposite. Okay. Deployment. The defender deploys their main force within the defender's deployment zone, as shown in the map opposite. Once complete, the attacker deploys their entire army within the attacker's deployment zone. Right, so first turn. In this scenario, the attacker will automatically take the first turn, and the game length of the battle will last for 6 rounds or until one side concedes. Okay. What have we got here? So Defender's Rescue Force gains the Ambusher's special rule. So this, because of how they're doing this, this sounds very similar to the old version of the Ambusher's special rule. Which, for example, Wulfric, the Wanderer, he gave the Ambusher's special rule to a unit of Marauders. It looks like it does something very similar. So, however, from the beginning of the round 2 onwards, Defender rolls a single d6 for their entire rescue force during each of their start of turn sub-phases rolling. Okay, so it's 1d6 for the entire rescue force rather than for each unit. Okay, fine. Upon its arrival, the entire rescue force enters the battlefield as reinforcements from the western edge of the board. In other words, all allied units within the rescue force must be placed on the edge of the battlefield to the right of the defender's deployment zone. Okay, so, you know where they're coming from, which is interesting, right? So the Tomb King player can plan for which edge they're coming on, which is interesting. I'm not sure if I like it that he knows they're coming on from the west side, but I suppose if he had scouts and stuff, he would know. And it is historical. Any units belonging to the rescue force cannot be placed on the battlefield during the turn it arrives, may be left in reserve, and can be brought on as described previously during the following turn. Okay. Fresh from victory at the Citadel Boulia, all units in the reserve force benefit from the blessings of the Lady special rule without having to pray at the start of the game. So this is interesting. I wonder, can the defenders actually pray because the attacker automatically gets the first turn? So if the attacker's automatically getting the first turn, you might as well pray because you're not going to get it anyway. It doesn't say that they can't, but the reinforcements do get the blessing of the Lady by default, which is nice. Right, staked defences. So we know that one side of the hill does have staked defences. Staked defences count as a low linear obstacle. However, unless it has the fly special rule, any unit that charges an enemy behind staked defences makes a disordered charge and becomes disrupted. We don't know 100% what that does yet. In addition, any model whose troop type is cavalry or chariot must take a peril test, as if it had fled through an enemy unit, if it ends its charge move in base contact with staked defences. Okay, nice. So actually putting it on the opposite side of the hill to where the reinforcements are coming will give you some additional defence. That could be quite nice, sticking some men-at-arms or even some Knights of the Realm on foot behind those defences. Right, victory. Once the battle has ended, use victory points to determine which player is the winner, as described in, the defending player wins a bonus 250 victory points if there are no models belonging to the attacking player on the flat area atop the defensive position. The attacking player wins a bonus 250 victory points if they are the only player with models upon the flat top of the defensive positions. Okay, so it's all about that. Okay, interesting to a point. What I'm, they say this is a historical battle. I'm hoping that in some of the other scenarios there are more objective-based elements to score victory points that make more use of mobile, highly mobile, light cavalry, skirmishing units that can move quickly, that sort of thing, that generally in the past have struggled to justify their place on the board, with the exception of move blocking and movement disruption. I think it would be nice to give them some extra use by capturing an objective across the board or something like that they need to do. So to give armies with some element of flexibility and mobility an overall benefit, so that we don't all go down the same army list and then the same unit over and over within the rule of 3. So But overall, I mean, it looks fun. Looks like a fun scenario. It's a narrative one at that, so you can have a lot of fun. You don't really have to go min-max meta this one. So, okay, good. Hopefully, I'll be interested to see more of these historical ones, and I'm interested to see more of the sort of the scenarios being set up for battles in the old rule book, which, you know, it's not going to be too long now. So I'm sure we can wait a few more days. There you go, guys. That's the end of the Old World Almanac article looking at the Arcane journals. Really props to Games Workshop for doing this prior to pre-order day so that people can make their judgment on if they want to buy this or not. I can tell you I will be buying both Arcane journals and the main rulebook and the Ravening Halls and Force of Fantasy books, assuming that they are in stock, and when I get in the queue in the morning that I'll actually be able to pick them up. At the moment, nobody knows what the stock is going to be like. So fingers crossed. That's the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Let me know why in the comments down below. And as always, if you want to see more content, hit that subscribe button. It's free for you to do. It means a lot for me, so thank you for that in advance. You've been watching The Ghost Hour. Tune back in for some more Warhammer The Old World content.